In 2023, a crack commando unit of retro podcasters joined forces on a panel at LA Comic-Con, but were sent to Comic-Con jail for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped. Today, still wanted by 80s nerds, they are very easy to find. If you have an 80s nostalgia problem, if no one else can help, maybe you can hire the Night Boys.
For freedom wherever there's trouble, G.I. Joe is there.
It's here, the G.I. Joe collection. Infantry trooper, codename Grunt. Bazooka soldier, codename Zap. Motor soldier, codename Short Fuse. Laser rifle trooper, codename Flash. Ranger, codename Stalker. Communications officer, codename Breaker. Machine gunner, codename Rock and Roll. Counterintelligence, codename Scarlet. Commando, codename Snake Eyes. Each sold separately. G.I. Joe from Hasbro.
They'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. The Night Boys are there. The Night Boys, real podcasting heroes. The Night Boys will dare. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this month's episode of 80s Kids Unite. I am one quarter. We only have 4 people here today. We have no Paul London as of now, but he may show up later. But I am Corey, a.k.a. Sleazy C from Podcasting After Dark. I'm joined with me, as always, are Zach, the Total Snackage Schaefer, Diallo, the Armageddon Jackson, and Dustin. I don't have a nickname for you.
I do. It's Clutch.
Oh, yes, Dustin.
It just goes Clutch.
Ruben.
It's just Clutch.
And I think Corey, your new nickname should just be Sigil.
Never mind. We want to try to keep this maybe kid friendly, but
never mind.
We'll go past that.
Wait, but Corey, Diallo's got to be. I'm gonna call Diallo Tepache.
I have no idea what that means.
I'm gonna call
Diallo Lucky Strike.
Guys and gals, on this episode of 80s Kids Unite, we are going to be discussing our favorite and least favorite G.I. Joe and Cobra action figures. Now, I emphasize that because there's a difference. We're not talking about our favorite and least favorite G.I. Joe and Cobra characters. We're talking about the action figures. So, an action figure we may love may not be a character we actually love, and maybe vice versa. This topic was suggested by Patreon member Lee Germani. And
Lee.
And thanks to Lee, we may actually get like 2 more topics out of this one. So thank you for this one, Lee. And if anybody out there wants to submit a topic, well, you have to become a Patreon member to Podcasting After Dark or $2 late fee. It doesn't have to be both. It can be one or the other. And we kind of keep a master list going with all, both of the podcasts and everything. But before we dive into it, just want to give a reminder of whatever feed you're listening to. Make sure you go check out the other podcasts, that are out there. So if you're listening to this on $2 late fee, check out Podcasting After Dark. Check out Galactica Actually. Check out Territory Marks. We got all kinds of good stuff happening. And TV Obscura as well. So before we jump in, and again, let me just do one more caveat. We are discussing the 1982 the 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joe figures. We're not talking about the 70s and older stuff, the bigger ones, because we are 80s kids.
Boo.
Unite. I know,
So
I know.
It's 80s up until 89, 90, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm sure we could make some kind of case for something being 1990s.
We're gonna make fun of you though, because you were like 19 when you were playing with those in 1990.
Yeah. No, I was not. I was in 7th grade. I was a freshman.
You were a freshman in 1990.
Yes.
Okay.
Was I?
Okay. Yeah.
I was. Yeah.
I'm doing the math in my head. I was wondering where I was in 1990.
I was listening to the verb pipe.
Well,
Wow.
I want to get us back on track, and I want to ask everybody
That wasn't out yet.
what their
No, it
first
It wasn't.
G.I. Joe memory was. Diallo, what about you, buddy?
As the old guy in the group, my first, it's like G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe was like the bigger ones, the whatever.
You just your prom was finishing up, and you walked out, and there was Duke
Listen, Clutch.
at the limo.
Clutch is mouthing off tonight.
Clutch is so mesmerized by your background. I feel like you're trying to hypnonize me into.
So-
I should use that as my background for the character I have, right, Zach?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember, the old figures with the full beard like Dustin's and the hair like Dustin's, and
Yes.
yeah, and but I remember the first time I saw the commercial for I think it was actually for the comic book for G.I. Joe. It was like a cartoon, and pretty soon after the actual Mass Device episodes came out, I think like a year later maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was I don't know, I was like maybe like 11 when those first came out. So yeah, I have G.I. Joe for most of my life. I've had them in my brain space.
They've lived rent-free in your brain. Dustin, what about you, buddy?
Well, having done a retro podcasting for a while now, I've discovered about myself that I'm not very good at recalling firsts. So
Okay.
I don't remember first grade. I don't remember losing my virginity. I just remember sort of G.I. Joe's just kind of existing. I watched the cartoon religiously. I had a ton of figures. I mean, they're probably my favorite figure. But I don't remember the circumstances which led me to go, oh, that's G.I. Joe. And I wish I did. I wish it was like, oh, yeah, this kid was playing with them and I saw it. But I don't know. It's just like those things that are just part of pop culture. It kind of amazes me about kids, like how anyone finds anything. Like why is Bluey the most famous show in the world now? And
Right.
how does everyone just know about it? And parents seem to hate it. Well, some parents love it. But it's just like these things of like, how do they come to us? And no one in my family was telling me about them. It was someone out there. So I assume maybe the cartoon. I don't know.
Yeah, that's valid. Zach, what about you, buddy?
Well, my mom was adamantly against anything commercialized or violent. So G.I. Joe was a big no-no in my mom's house versus my dad, who didn't really buy my brother and I action figures or toys. So it was just non-existent in my dad's family my dad's house. But I remember walking home from school one day and seeing a grunt figure on the ground. And I picked him up and I coveted him and I hid him in my pillowcase at home. And apparently my mom
disgusting.
found it. Yeah, it was, it wasn't that. I was
I'm
6.
sure you didn't clean it.
Oh, yeah, no, I cleaned it off.
Oh, you
cleaned
did?
It off.
I mean, what if a dog shat on it? What if it was like
It could have
covered
been.
and you just
I
put it
mean-
in your pillowcase?
No,
all
I'm sure I
places.
took it home and cleaned it. I don't recall that, but I'm sure I
Being
did.
6 and cleaning it?
Maybe not. Maybe I just brushed it off.
Yeah,
but
that seems a little.
it was pretty legit though. I was like, I got a
You
G.I.
rubbed it off
Joe.
on your pants legs and everything. That's fine. There you go.
Yep.
I did, and
Yeah.
my mom apparently found it because she said, I'm gonna take you to Kmart and I'm gonna let you pick out 3 G.I. Joes. And was it 3? Yeah. And I've told this story before, but really quickly, she said, I want you to pick out the least violent Joes of the G.I. Joes. So I chose Spirit because he was a Native American. Oh, he's a Native American. Not Barbecue, but Blowtorch.
Okay.
Blowtorch I got. And Shipwreck. Well, Blowtorch because my dad was a firefighter, and Shipwreck because my dad was in the Navy. He was actually a Navy SEAL, but Shipwreck was less violent looking than Torpedo. who
Shipwreck
was
didn't even
the-
come with a gun, did he?
He came with a gun.
With a parrot.
but he came with the parrot too, and a hook, I think,
Okay,
as well.
okay.
Yeah, but you know, I had like the Village People of GI Joes. I've said this before, but I mean, I coveted those things as well. Those 4 Joes, Grunt, Spirit, Blowtorch, and Shipwreck, were like my first Joes, and the rest is history. I as well, like I'm sure you guys did, collected the hell out of those things. You could put them in your pocket. You could take them anywhere you wanted. They were not like He-Man. So He-Man was bigger, more bulkier. It was hard to hide at school, because I would bring my Joes to school. I was a big fan of that book.
Freshman year, you're just plopping them out on the table.
I was. I'd be like, hey, don't look. You know, that book Indian in the Cupboard came out about the kid who put the figure in the little chest and it came to life. I dreamed that my Joes would come to life and do that, which they did not, sadly. So, but I tried. Oh my God, did I try?
Well, I realized as I was asking the question, as the words were coming out of my mouth, I realized I had no answer for it on my end, because I am very similar to Dustin. I mean, I was born in 78 and they came out in 82, so I was like 4 years old. They literally were just in my life, my entire life that I can remember. But I will say the first Joe that I can remember getting, I don't remember his name. Zach, you'll probably remember. He had like these red things on his chest, and he had a visor that could kind of plastic
Flash.
Flash?
That
Yeah,
was
Flash.
that was the first one I got.
Yeah.
I was literally
Yeah.
just
Wow.
talking about that guy the other day
And
to a parent who's like, that was my first Joe.
And I loved how it, like the plastic visor thing could go up on his helmet and down like sort of over his eyes. I don't think I had a completed version. I think I got one from like a used toy mart or something like that, but he did have the helmet. I didn't have the backpack. I think he came with a jetpack or something. I didn't have that.
I think so.
But yeah, so that was kind of like that's the first one I remember. But so like Dustin, it just was in my entire childhood. And you know, as much as obviously like I had a lot of Star Wars toys, I had a lot of He-Man toys, I had some Transformers, but by and large, I had a massive amount of GI Joes, and I had a lot of vehicles too. And one day we're gonna get around to listing our favorite and least favorite vehicles as well, because I had a shit ton of those. But yeah, GI Joe was just like in my life my entire childhood.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that first wave of Joes that ever came out, like the first 8, I believe it was Stalker, Breaker, who looks a little bit like Clutch, Scarlet, Rock and Roll, Flash, who you mentioned, and then Zap, Grunt, and Snake Eyes. I believe those were the first 8.
Yeah,
if I said.
And this was sort of goggled Snake Eye, like he's kind of got eyes, sort of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
kind of
wasn't-
based. The first original Snake Eyes was
Yeah, it wasn't the one with the visor. That was the second version that they came
that
out
came out
later.
in '84, I think.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, can we all agree
Maybe
like
85.
that visor Snake Eyes is the better version?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, watch that show, The Toys That Made Us, and they tell all about that Snake Eyes was just a generic figure that they sprayed painted black, and it was the cheapest one to make, and it was the biggest seller
Yeah.
of all the Joes at that time.
I actually had a memory unlocked now that I think you mentioned the old school GI Joes, and I remember actually having a dream. You know how like. Have you ever had a dream like where you won the lottery or something, and then you woke
Every
you
night,
wake
baby.
up, yeah, and you wait like you think you won, and you wake up and you're like, oh, I didn't actually. Yeah, I remember. I
Yeah.
remember being a kid and having a dream that I had that GI Joe, like the big figure, because I never actually had one. I just remember they were out. And I remember just like
big doll
yeah,
figure?
the big doll figure. And then I remember coveting it, you know, like in the dream, and like, oh, I had it, and I woke up, but it wasn't there. That was my first experience with that kind of situation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And your first experience with GI Joes. You woke up, you're like, there's a thing called GI Joe, and I must have it.
yeah. So
That's hilarious. I always wanted that Stalker figure, by the way. I thought that Stalker figure was rad.
Well,
Yeah.
I liked in the comic books, they really made Stalker a bigger character in the comics. And as much as I loved the cartoons, I read a lot of G.I. Joe comics. I was also obsessed, weirdly, with Vietnam when I was a kid. And I mean, all my favorite characters had a Vietnam background. Frank Castle, you know, was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean-
all the Joes.
that's not weird. That's what was happening at the time. you know?
Right.
Like everybody that was making content at that time was like grown up in that Vietnam era. So that's when all those movies are coming out and everything.
Diallo, did you read the comic The Nom by Marvel?
Yeah, I remember. I didn't read it regularly, but I've read some issues. I remember when it was out, yeah.
Did you also read the G.I. Joe comics too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the G.I. Joe comics are, especially, I think it was like the first 20-something issues. Like, there's a figure or character that, like, it's Quinn the Eskimo, which, to me, is one of the greatest characters ever made that never ended up being a figure. So
didn't they make him into a figure in the Super 7 do it?
The Super 7 lame ones did. Yeah, those figures suck.
But those I remember, like the drama of the original. There's like and then there was another character, Dr. Venom from the comic books. That was like, it was a great character. I remember when like Quinn and Snake Eyes, they thought they had died and they were in this bunker that had sunk and they had to get out, and it was like a whole arc of them trying to get back to the Joes. And yeah, those G.I. Joe comic books were amazeballs.
Yeah, they were. Dustin, did you read those back in the day? Because I don't really know. Did you read a bunch of comics when you were younger?
I did. I think we talked a little bit about it at some point, and I told you that I didn't store them properly, and you almost had a heart attack.
Now it's coming back. Yes. Now the pain is coming back.
Why?
The pain.
Yeah, you're like, you didn't alphabetize them, and you kept them in the. But I was like, no, they were they were stored.
We basically reenacted the scene from Mallrats.
Yes, exactly. But yes, I did read some of the comics. Here and there, but I wasn't diehard collecting in the series or following any storylines.
I think I probably was more akin to you again as well, because I read them, but I never collected them like in order and was like, oh, I need to keep reading it. The first comic book that I actually actively collected was The Punisher, and then I moved on to X-Men at the time. And I don't know if anyone knows this one, Diallo maybe, a DC miniseries, 13 episodes called Haywire.
Sounds familiar. I'm not I don't know of it really.
It's kind of a deep cut, but that was the first comic book that I ever actually completed the series, and I had to go and track down issue 13 to do it. But we're not here to talk about comic books, even if they are G.I. Joe comic books. We're here to talk about our favorite and least favorite action figures in this venerable line of toys. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go around and we're going to do our favorite and least favorite G.I. Joe and sort of do them together, and then we can discuss them, as per person. And then we'll circle back around, same order, and do Cobra as well. So, you know what? I'm going to just be looking at my screen. So I'm going to say, you know what? Zach, we're going to go counterclockwise for me. And Zach, why don't you kick off? What is your favorite G.I. Joe action figure?
I did just want to interrupt real quickly because I wanted to commend Zach on having the best origin story, number one, of remembering not only what you saw on the street, but then the first 3 that you bought on that day with your mom. This sets the stakes pretty high, I think, for whatever you're about to say.
And I agree. You do have the best one out of all 4 of us.
So anyway, kudos to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, this may let down one person in the Night Boys group, and not the others. But my favorite G.I. Joe figure is from 1987, I believe, and his name is Outback. He's the survivalist, and I'll pull up a.
Wait, what? Outback?
Yeah.
The hiking instructor.
My favorite G.I. Joes from 1987, he is Outback. And my least favorite, and I guess I'll talk about Outback after I reveal my least favorite Joe. My least favorite Joe is from later on in the toy line, toward the tail end. I believe it was from 1989. I could have my dates off on this one. But he is Captain Gridiron.
Oh,
So
boy.
Captain Gridiron and Outback, and I'll just briefly talk about each one. So
Wait, I see why you like Outback, because he has the really tight T-shirts that you like. So
well, okay, so
That
let me
probably
describe.
just-
I did say, oh, that's a total Zach pick.
that's a
Yeah.
Zach. That's a Zach shirt. Your arms are sculpted exactly the size of Outback's.
So Outback, he looks an awful lot like Chuck Norris, and at the time I was obsessed with making my Joes into what do you call it? Movie characters, right? So I did a John McClane where I took a G.I. Joe and a Duke's head, painted his hair black, put on Quick Kick's legs, because you could take the screw off the back, interchange the bodies. I made a John McClane. I made a Commando. Well, I wanted to make a McCready from The Thing, and I thought this was the closest I could get to a McCready from The Thing. It says survival. I thought he was super badass. Yeah, so his backstory is he is like this outdoor survivalist, but the comic book apparently delves deeper into his backstory. One in which he like leaves Stalker, Quick Kick, and Snow Job behind because they're like captured by Cobra, and he's able to escape, and he doesn't want to leave them, but they like force him to leave, and it's this big emotional thing he has going on. But the shirt survival is actually an acronym for from the U.S. Army Ranger Handbook. The acronym stands for S, size up the situation. U, undo haste makes waste. R, remember where you are. V, vanquish fear and panic. I, improve your situation. V, value living. A, act like the natives. And L, learn basic skills. So that's, I thought that was pretty badass. He comes with a cool, like, kind of machine gun and a backpack. Not accessory wise, nothing to go gaga over. And then we flip over to Captain Gridiron. Captain Gridiron.
What an asshole.
He's just an asshole. So his backstory is he's like this jock football player at West Point and graduated in the top of his class. This is all on their bio cards, by the way, on the back. And other G.I. Joes were put off a bit by his attitude. Because he's kind of cocky and he talks with like a John Wayne kind of tough guy cadence. And then you get down to the nitty gritty of his weapons. He's got football grenades, and his helmet that he wears looks like a football helmet. I thought he was so stupid. I owned him. Of course I did. And I just thought he was so lame. So in the pantheon of G.I. Joe characters, this one I voted personally as being the lamest of the G.I. Joes. So Outback, my favorite, and Gridiron, my least favorite.
You know, I'm looking at Captain Gridiron right now, and not gonna lie, I don't hate him. I'm just like, I'm like, he doesn't look terrible. He actually comes with a lot of accessories, which is nice. Like, that's actually really cool. I mean, it is kind of lame, yes. And by the way, Outback is awesome. I always thought he was a really cool character. I actually never owned him, but I thought he was really cool. But Captain Gridiron, I think what's really holding him back is his name. I think if he had a cooler name, he might have actually maybe fared a little better. But as is, I've never even seen him before, which is really weird. Like, I've never even heard of him.
If you watch the season 3 of G.I. Joe, which most people did not, it's the Sunbow season. It's terrible. It's trash overall. He's one of the main characters throughout that show. And you're just like, you know, it's just so... In an unbelievable world, it's unbelievable.
Diallo, thoughts on Captain Gridiron and Outback?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I don't like either of them.
Hey, that's why they're my picks, not yours.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Outback just looks, I don't know. When did this come out?
Outback came out in 87. I believe Captain Gridiron came out in 89. I could be wrong, but...
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, these, and I think with a couple of my picks of at least one of them that I don't like, like when I think about X-Men, there's like a sweet spot of characters I like, and then after a while they're like forced to come up with new characters, and they just start just coming up with crazy stuff just because they have to. And that's how I kind of feel about G.I. Joe. And so especially that, like, in everything post G.I. Joe, the movie on, pretty much I wasn't a big fan of. So that probably is why these just don't really spark anything for me at all. Like, I'm looking at Outback and I'm just like, what? Like, what? And then
he's a survivalist. He's kind of normal. Look, I think that's why I like him.
He's pretty
he was
simplistic.
kind of normal.
He's pretty. He's a really tight T-shirt. He's what you wear now. I mean, he really is what you wear now. And if you could carry a backpack and a gun.
That literally, when I look at that, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely like a Zach.
Yeah, it's like you've modeled your entire life as Outback as his physical specimen.
And then for Captain, I mean, for what Corey is saying, like, I don't hate that Captain Gridiron. Like, he looks fine. There's just, I think it's like the name. Maybe I expect him to be more like a football player or something. Like, I don't.
It should have been Fred Perry, the refrigerator's name.
I don't get his deal, but he looks fine. I don't like, I don't like that on the figure. I don't like the orange, like that bright orange with the
orange pants.
Yeah, with the green. It just looks weird. Everything looks weird. I mean, he kind of looks like I can't think of the like he looks like a cross between like Bazooka and some other character.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can see that.
Stalker. Like, he looks like a mishmash of characters. I don't know. Sorry.
He looks like...
Oh, no, he's lame.
I mean, he looks like when you ask your neighbor who's like really intense to go play paintball. And that's what he comes out with.
Totally.
I'm ready. I got my helmet. And you're like, dude, you don't need a fucking helmet. Like,
that is exactly what he looks like.
Actually, that's the one thing you do need when you play paintball.
But you don't need the face guard. You need the...
Dustin's like, when you play paintball, you don't need any goggles. That's preposterous.
Well, it's like he's like this is like a little bit of a metaphor or whatever. I don't know the word I'm thinking of, but it's like if you ever play like softball, it's the guy that comes out with like a full baseball uniform, and everybody else is just like, hey, we're gonna have to play.
Right.
That's kind of what his vibe is.
Yeah.
Like, he looks like he's a little bit overdressed.
He's overdressed, but he also has combined multiple sports where he's like, I've got the football helmet, I've got the the Kevlar vest, I've got the gun. These are like my hunting pants. I'm also in camouflage for some reason because I'm gonna, you're not gonna be able to see me, but you're like, but we're not in a desert. We're not going into a desert map. I also don't think you need the captain. I think the captain in his name is, that's probably his rank, but just calling him Gridiron would make more sense. He just seems like...
Well, that was kind of the thing.
That is a great point.
he was kind of one of the leaders in the season 3 series, so maybe that's why they gave him the captain moniker. But also too, like the image of him, the illustrations, which are always badass on the cards, the blister cards of the G.I. Joe figures, is really detailed. And then his is like, there's no camo at all. It's just his arms and his boots in the picture are camouflage, but then the actual figure himself, he's just like, it's olive green. That's it.
Well, can I also point out that on the blister card, it says hand-to-hand combat specialist, and he comes with the most weapons that I've ever seen a G.I. Joe come with.
This is true. And I will note, close up, you can see he's got a little bit more definition of the camouflage, but I just think he's kind of lame. I don't know. I think it bugged me so much because I was like, he's wearing a football helmet. Like, that bugged me. And he has football grenades. There was a figure who wore a baseball cap. I forget his name. I like that figure, but he came with a, the gun in Predator that the one guy had? It was like a grenade launcher gun.
Poncho had.
Punch,
yeah. My favorite member of the rescue team.
Me
Put
too.
some respect on his name.
Sorry, Poncho had that gun, and this G.I. Joe came with that gun, and the figure was kind of lame, but it was the accessory that did it. Those football grenades really rubbed me the wrong way It's just the
The grenade launcher gun. Are you talking about Range Viper? That Viper with the brain?
This was a Joe.
Okay, because Range
Joe.
Viper also came with a grenade launcher. That, you know what? They probably used the same accessory and put it on a Cobra character.
His name was some sort of baseball play.
Hardball. It was Hardball.
Hardball.
Yeah,
Hardball. Yeah,
Yep, I remember
Hardball.
him. Dustin, you didn't kind of get a chance to do like full thoughts and everything. You kind of got cut off a few times.
No, well, I mean, I think I did. I mean, I basically, I think Outback is Zach, Gridiron is Lane.
Perfect. And Gridiron was released in 1990 for clarification.
Okay, so when Zach
Okay.
was a freshman in high school, then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Walking around. He's got his Gridiron in his pocket, his Chuck Norris book in his other
First
pocket.
day of school, ready to rock and roll, baby.
You got part of that right.
He's like, you can call me Captain Gridiron. Do you play football? No, he's my favorite Joe character. Diallo, you're up, buddy. Favorite and least favorite G.I. Joe action figures.
I'm still trying to figure out what Captain Gridiron's deal is. Like
He's a
like,
hand-to-hand specialist, baby.
yeah, but it's like, why name him Captain Grid? Like they put the football face mask on him, but that's it. Like,
Right.
The football grenades, too.
there's nothing else about him that like says football. Like this is so...
Yeah, which is ironic because it's funny because we had Refrigerator Perry as an action figure, and he had that football mace toy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's why.
That was great.
I have that figure. I
did
still have it.
I did too.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second, Zach. So when I'm looking this up, the Captain Gridiron action shot that you had sent me earlier is the one that I was like, this is very phallic.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like he's launching 3 penises, like straight up. In this,
I don't have this picture, Zach.
Zach,
you
where's
need
that
to put
photo?
this one up into the
that's
group
what you
chat.
got to put up.
Okay, I will put that in. Really. So yeah,
Put
so
that
those
in.
missiles that come with the figure,
This is crazy.
that they actually get loaded onto his rifle.
Listeners, we are going to compile all of these pictures. We will put them in the show notes, so you'll be able to see them at your leisure. So please don't crash the car.
Penises.
Looking for penises.
All right, here we go.
Hang on a
I'll put
minute.
this in the chat right now.
Look at this Gridiron.
Whoa.
Wow.
So the picture that everyone's looking at, Gridiron comes with all these missiles, and the football grenades go on
Those
his
aren't
legs.
missiles. Those are cocks.
Those are
The missiles go on the
cock-loaded.
extension of this gun, which doesn't even look like it looks like when you get a toy and it has all the extra plastic connected to it, and you got to detach that
Yeah.
and throw that. The gun looks like all that extra plastic is still attached to it, but it's part of the gun.
Yeah, I see it. I see that. Wow. Yeah, those are just dildos. So he's Captain Dildo. He just fires
Captain
dildos
Dildo.
at people. Okay.
amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because he looks dramatically different in that picture than he does on his blister card, and the helmet on the blister card looks so much better than that shitty helmet right there on the toy. So I retract my
I'm winning
statement
you over.
that I made earlier that I thought that he might be slightly cool. The blister card artist did a bang up job making him much cooler than he is.
Agreed.
He's such a tool.
Yeah.
He's a tool.
Yeah. It's not centered, his helmet. His mask is like off. It looks like he just
It's off kilter.
got whacked.
Diallo, your favorite and least favorite G.I. Joe action figures.
So my favorite G.I. Joe action figure was a character named Snowjob, and who I once was in the car with my parents, and I said blowjob, and they never acknowledged that I said that. To this day, I wonder if they caught that. And it was totally an accident because it was a word I had learned from a friend. And anyway, you know.
Of course. we all know.
And then the other character, these lists are actually always really hard for me because I'm not really like a binary person in what I like and don't like so much. So it's hard for me to like really say, but I have like a range of things. And this character I'm not a favorite of is Dusty.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What didn't you like about Dusty? His stupid hat.
Yeah, just like it's just sort of like
Stupid name.
yeah, it's just like try harder. I don't know what to say, you know? Like I just don't there's nothing that I can like pinpoint. I just didn't like the little like the whatever thing he has draped over his head, the camouflage on his face. Why are you in the desert? And which is ironic because like the other character I like is the guy that's in the snow. So, but yeah, I don't know. I just never, and like, it's like, I don't know. It's like, he never was like my favorite figure. But you know, there's a bunch of figures I don't like for G.I. Joe. So this was just one of the ones, cause I actually kind of, for the most part, picked from the era that I was collecting in. Cause I didn't really collect like past a certain date. Because as Dustin said, I was like, 19 and in the prom. Literally would have been in the prom when some of these were out. So I did pick one. But anyways, we'll get to that later. But I did not like Dusty. I don't know why.
So I'll say real quick for Snow Job, I love characters that are either in the snow, like I love the Snow Viper. He's not my pick, but I love that character, and I also love characters that go in like underwater, like the Cobra Eel or something like that. And I always thought it was cool that Snow Job had skis that came with him. Like talk about hell, we could do like best Joes with the best accessories, yeah, and that would be one of them. Dusty, I was never personally a big fan of that character. I kind of don't think he's that cool looking. The only thing I'll say is I always thought it was kind of neat though that his gun came with that tripod stand.
Tripod,
yeah. I thought that was kind of neat when they had little extras like that. And even just having soft goods on the helmet, I thought was kind of neat. Even as a kid, I understood that was a little bit something extra. But for the most part, I never had a Dusty toy, and I never was like into his character either, even though that's not really what we're talking about. But I never personally cared for Dusty. I never hated him, but I never really cared for him. Dustin, what are your thoughts on these two characters?
Well, speaking about Dusty, I got Dusty because it was close to my name, Dustin. And then I just kind of regretted it. He is a very lame character. I'm in total agreement. There's not much to him. Even like seeing him in the cartoon later, I was like, Like I didn't relate to this character at all. Like, oh, his name's Dusty. People call me Dusty. That's it. That's all. That's the only connection I have to this. So I'm with you there. And then Snow Job, I feel like is one of the foundational Joes where he was kind of tough to avoid. Even it was just like that picture that we're looking at now of him kind of crouching, and I feel like that's iconic G.I. Joe to me. I think it's just like a good, it's like going into the best of, and being like, yeah, absolutely. G.I. Joe's fight on land, sea, air, snow, desert,
space at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
Zach, thoughts?
So Snow Job, I loved. My only complaint was that I wish I like the 25th anniversary figure because you could actually take the helmet off and the goggles off and everything like that. I wish you could have done that back in the day. I know you can't because it's whatever. Because oftentimes in the cartoon he'd have his helmet off, or he'd have the hood off or the goggles off. But he was in my storylines with my figures. He was Outback's brother, so they were always linked up and going off into the wilderness together.
They're both gingers.
So yeah. So which is the older brother, and which one was the one that would teabag the other brother?
Wow. So Snow Job was the older
Snow Job was
one.
Eric.
Yep. Thank you, Dustin. You know where I'm going.
And I'm Elephant Man. And Dusty's lame. It shocked me that in the cartoon he actually got an episode devoted to his character, where he was the traitor. He joined Cobra, but it all ended up being a ruse and was wrapped up all night. It was like a 2-parter also. I'm like, this guy gets a whole 2-part episode, this guy? But I always thought he was kind of like milquetoast, and he reminded me of like, okay, he's a desert grunt. Like, he's a very basic character. And even I wish the helmet on him could have come off, because if you ever watch the show, 90% of the time he's without the helmet.
Yeah.
Like, he's just, and the face paint too. And you're like, oh, it doesn't even look like the character on the show. Lame.
Right.
Anyways, yeah, I echo it. It's a solid pick for a least liked Joe.
Yeah, the snow job one, I remember when it first came out, because it was like you had that first wave, right? And then when the second wave of characters came out, and they were just like a lot more colorful and popping, and I just like, for some reason, like the snow job character just really like popped out and resonated for me. I remember I had it, and I had the snowmobile. I remember one time we went up to like Tahoe for like a week, and I brought that up with me, and there was snow, like it was during the winter, and I skied him down little, in front of the house that we were staying in and stuff. So he just like I think the idea of him is, from an action figure standpoint, was just really cool. Like, you couldn't really it had Star Wars and other stuff, and everything was a bit more standard, and there was something about him that just felt a little bit more functional or fun or something. I don't know what it is. And Dusty's just like, I don't know, man. You're there.
With his short boots.
Was he in that episode when they go to the alternate universe?
No,
Zach?
he was not.
Oh, he
I
wasn't
thought
in
the
that
same
one?
thing,
Okay.
Diallo. I was going to ask the exact same thing. I thought that was Dusty. Who was that?
What is it called? Worlds Without End,
Yeah.
or something like that. It's so the original Joes. It's like Steeler, Grunt, Clutch, and Breaker, I believe.
Maybe
Was it
it's
Breaker?
Steeler I'm thinking of. Maybe.
Yeah,
even
it
that
might have
one.
been. Yeah, I think it was Steeler, Clutch, and Grunt. Those are the three guys, and that stay behind because they find their corpses.
Yeah.
We will definitely cover that show, whether
yes.
it's 80s Kids Unite or TV Obscura. We'll go down that road, because that 2-parter is phenomenal in my opinion.
We have to do
But,
favorite Joe episodes.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, we definitely should. All right, well, moving along. Dustin, what are your favorite and least favorite G.I. Joe action figures?
Well, favorite wise, you guys have obviously connected me to Clutch and how he looks like me. And Clutch was not in my G.I. Joe wheelhouse at all. But similar to Diallo, I really did enjoy the snow guys a lot. And so my favorite G.I. Joe is a Joe named Frostbite, who was the driver of the Snowcat. I know we're not talking about vehicles, but an incredibly, incredibly cool vehicle.
He looks like Dustin also.
Yeah,
And my
how ironic.
right, and kind of looks like me, right? Yes.
Yeah.
And my least favorite is fucking Footloose. Just your most standard, boring, basic. Here's just a trooper guy named Footloose, and I don't have a ton to say about it. Frostbite, I really enjoyed. Putting in a lot of different scenarios. He came with a really cool like M16.
With a giant scope on it. That thing's awesome.
Giant scope. Yeah. Giant badass scope. And even he was not anybody that I was ever encountering in anything outside of the action figure world. So I never saw him in cartoons. I don't even know if he was in cartoons. I've never pursued that that avenue to find out. But yeah, that he was just a great character, all white. I really enjoyed the snow camouflage aspect, and Footloose is boring.
Certainly is. Zach, thoughts on these two?
So, Frostbite I never had. I didn't have that Snowcat. I wanted that Snowcat. I think there were like three snow-centric G.I. Joes: Snow Job, Frostbite, and then Avalanche.
Yes.
I think that was the last one.
Well, I thought Avalanche. Yeah, okay, but he's not in all white though, right? Or
He isn't, but he's a snow figure.
Okay.
Like he's a snow character.
Yeah.
I think he's got some green or something like that. But what I liked about Frostbite was that he had like the fringe. The fringe was a different color than the rest of his outfit. And that snowcat vehicle, we'll do an episode on vehicles, Lee. Don't worry, we will get to that, Lee. And again, if you want to sign up and join our Patreon to suggest topics, please do so. But yeah, Frostbite's great. And then Footloose, yeah, he's lame. I mean, he looks like a Vietnam soldier, which is fine. He's very basic. Fun fact, he's one of like the most coveted G.I. Joe figures, though. Apparently he goes for buku bucks on eBay, and then the 25th anniversary figure that came out is like off the charts expensive because it was so limited. So Footloose apparently is a popular character amongst collectors, and
Really?
he was in the Excalibur episode where, of course, Storm Shadow slices pillars with the Excalibur sword, and they fall on Footloose. Footloose is like the one guy who gets captured by the Cobra, and it's actually kind of a cool storyline. So he was kind of cool in the series, but the figure is very generic. He just looks like he could be. I mean, if you want to recreate Full Metal Jacket, there's your guy. If you want to create Hamburger Hill, there's your guy. If you want to create recreate Casualties of War or Platoon, there's your guy.
or what was it? The Vietnam TV show back in the day too. Remember that?
Oh yeah, Vietnam.
I think we've talked about it so much. I forgot what. I think it had a different name though.
I don't know. I mean, if you want to create Off Limits with Willem Dafoe and oh gosh, what's his name from Tap and White Knights? Gregory Hines.
There you go.
Because I think he had a mustache in that. I think.
Are you talking about?
No, did he?
You're talking about Tour of Duty?
No, I'm talking about Off Limits.
Yes, Tour of Duty
yes.
was the Vietnam TV show. Thank you, Diallo. Thank you.
That's right.
Diallo, what are your thoughts on these two characters, these two toys?
I don't know. Like, it's funny because I don't not like Frostbite. I because Snow Job was my dude. When Frostbite came out, I viewed it like as a replacement for like my guy. So I didn't. No pun intended, warm up to him, very much. And there were a couple other characters that were replaced later too for other Joes. So I had that same sort of like feeling about them. But he is a cool character. And then Footloose, I'm neutral. Like he actually, he's very he is very Vietnam coded. Vietnam
Yes.
soldier coded. And I don't know that he was very prominent in the cartoon very much. I kind of hear his voice in my head. I don't know, he's fine. I kind of like the leaves or whatever he had in his helmet.
The helmet was cool. Yeah, I thought the helmet was, and it came off too, by the way.
Yeah, but other than that, yeah, just let's make some toys. We gotta make another figure. we gotta make some more money. We need some variation. Gotta sell some more stuff. That's how I feel
Right.
about a lot of these.
Yeah.
So.
Papa needs a new helmet.
Yeah.
I actually don't hate Footloose. I probably wouldn't gravitate towards him if I was a kid. But if I had somehow acquired him, I would have found uses for him and put him into some scenarios and everything. I actually like Frostbite as a kid. I never had him. I don't think I had the Snowcat either. I had the Cobra version that had this like weird slope to the front of it and rockets came out. I forgot what that was called. But that was sort of my snow thing that I had. So I never had Frostbite, but I always liked Zach, I'm with you. I like how his like fur is like a different color white than the actual outfit is. But I actually like how he's got that pistol in the front too, like that front holster pistol. I think that's really cool. But yeah, I mean, I could see why you wouldn't care for Footloose. I mean, he is kind of like a basic bitch, basically, But I could find uses for him though. probably mainly to shoot with my BB gun or something.
Wow. Wow.
Found him on the sidewalk and put him in your pillowcase.
Yes, something like that. Exactly. Without cleaning them off first, of
Yeah.
course. All right. Well, I am last up, and I'll go now with my favorite. So I'm the youngest out of everybody here. Mine made his debut in 1987 as a part of the Battle Force 2000 subset, and I'm talking about Dodger. And real quick, by the way, this subset tradition would continue in 1988 with Tiger Force and Night Force, and then in 1989 with Python Patrol and Slaughter's Marauders. But this was the first one, and I remember this when they kind of came out with this whole sub team or whatever, Battle Force, but Battle Force 2000. But I loved Dodger. Oh, no, and I'll give my least favorite, and I'll talk about them both. And my least favorite G.I. Joe character, goddamn Chuckles. I fucking hated Chuckles as a kid, a.k.a. Philip M. Provost. He debuted in 1987. As a kid, I was like, what is this? Like, person? You know, like, he has, like, just a pistol. Like, who are you? And then, you know, I know we're not talking about character-wise or whatever, but G.I. Joe, the movie, didn't help anything with him because he didn't do anything cool. So I remember seeing Chuckles, like, on the pegs, and literally as a kid, actively, like, as a 9-year-old kid, being like, no, that character is stupid. So, but let me go back to Dodger, because he's one of the later ones. Like I said, he came out in actually 1987 too. So he's not like one of the the earlier ones, but and so he comes with like this cool sort of futuristic armor because, you know, in the year 2000, that's the future.
In the year 2000.
Yep, exactly. But what really worked for me for him was that he doubled as a colonial marine. Because back in the 80s, we did not have any Aliens toys whatsoever. Those Kenner's toys didn't come out until the mid to late 90s. And this Dodger was the closest that we had to a colonial marine. And I say that because he's got the camera, or like it's either a camera or a, you know, light on his shoulder armor. He's got like another camera on his helmet. I mean, you can tell he's a ripoff of a colonial marine. He's got actual armor as opposed to, like, you know, Dusty, who has like no armor whatsoever. Like, he actually has like an armor piece on his chest. And I thought he was really cool looking. I actually had other characters from the Battle Force 2000, but I never played with any of them as much as him. And seriously, out of all of my G.I. Joe characters, I played with Dodger the most. And because he was pretty much a colonial marine. So Zach, thoughts on these two?
So Dodger's rad. Corey sent this to me the other day, and I was like, "Oh, that guy sucks." And then I realized, I'm like, "No, that guy does not suck." I was getting myself mixed up with another character of Corey's that he was showing me. He's got spikes on his gun where he holds the trigger or whatever, so he could, I guess, bash someone's brains in with that if he needed to. Yeah, it's a total Hicks looking figure, which makes sense and it tracks. That would be your favorite, because it is your favorite. And I think it's super rad. Chuckles, I actually like Chuckles because it was the closest we ever got to a Miami Vice figure. He's an undercover cop, an undercover Joe, but come on, he's supposed to kind of be a Duke character. I will say the classified version of Chuckles that came out last year or the year before, it's in this deluxe, very retro 80s box. It looks amazing. It's a total homage to Crockett from Miami Vice. The cartoon version of Chuckles was super lame. He just was this big doofus. This character, I mean, it's a Hawaiian shirt with fatigue, so he's got terrible style. If that's what an undercover Joe is supposed to look like, I'm like, where is he going in that outfit? It is kind of lame, but I thought it was like it was my Crockett, so I kind of liked it because of that.
In my head, an undercover Joe would look probably more akin to Mercer from Sergeant Slaughter's, you know, Marauders, because, you know, he was like ex-Viper, so his outfit had a little bit of Viperness to it. Yeah. And I would think like an undercover Joe would look more like that.
Agreed.
Not like an asshole wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
Asshole.
Asshole. Dustin, what are your thoughts on these two?
Dodger looks very cool to me. I've never. This is my first exposure to Dodger. I'm not familiar with him at all. The Battle Force 2000, somehow I did not encounter that at all. But yeah, looks very cool. Looks like a soldier. And Chuckles seems kind of like if Nick Nolte,
Yeah.
like a young Nick Nolte, pre Hard Times, I guess. I think.
It's like 48 Hours meets Teachers.
Yes, exactly. I mean, he really being the undercover specialist is hilarious to me.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's going undercover.
Right?
Anywhere.
I'm an insurance
You're not
salesman.
blending in with that.
Right. Maybe keep the gun underneath the shirt or something. I just like, what are you? No, man, I'm just a tourist. You're like,
But clearly you weigh like 250 pounds, all muscle,
Right.
yeah. But again, it's like the artwork and then the figure are two different realities.
So different. This is probably one of the biggest differences in figures.
It's like the figure just looks like the saddest little. I'm a starfish. Like it looks like he has a starfish on his shirt, but it's a flower. But either way,
It does. Oh my God. Now I can't unsee
it's like SpongeBob. He's wearing a SpongeBob.
Oh my God.
Shirt.
Now I hate him even more.
So
it's Patrick.
yeah, that's what it seems like to me. So, but then what is his? Does he have like a bow staff or a crutch or something? Like what is he?
No, that's the holster for the pistol, which I got to admit that's kind of cool because it goes
Okay.
around his chest.
Okay.
It's like a piece of plastic, yeah, but it's actually the holster for the pistol.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't do much for me, so I'm certainly with you.
Diallo.
Yeah, Dodger looks pretty cool. I think the sleeveless look is a little aggressive, but it's fine. The little headphone thing is actually pretty cool. That like the microphone or whatever, the
Yeah,
Janet Jackson headphone. That actually is really cool. The gun design is interesting because it's like it reads future, and this is like Battle Force 2000, I guess. So like they made the gun look like more lasery than like a modern military weapon. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, and like like you said, the Starship Troopers look to it definitely makes it register. I'd never heard of them, so there's that.
Yeah.
And then Chuckles I remember from like the G.I. Joe movie, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, yeah, it's kind of like just like annoying. I don't know. He's like, it's just loud and annoying. That shirt. Like, I kind of see what you're trying to do, and in a way, I almost feel like he deserves his own series on CBS. Because there's like a story behind it, and he reminds me of like a cross between like Magnum PI and Steve Regal, the WWE wrestler from back in the day. Yeah,
I'm
like,
a man.
Yeah, that's just what I look at, because it's just there's a lot going on there, and it's just but also I get really annoyed by most of those characters from like G.I. Joe the movie on. Like most of them I just don't like. So there's that.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, buddy.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. And real quick, guys and gals, everyone noted Dodger's gun. I actually, Zach, I used Dial Tone's gun when I played with him because I thought it was remotely the one that looked the closest to maybe a pulse rifle.
So there was Dial Tone, and then there was Mainframe. So you were a
wait.
Dial Tone guy?
Sorry, what was the one with the big backpack?
Mainframe. That was
Mainframe.
Mainframe.
Sorry, I always get them confused.
Yeah.
I loved Mainframe. He almost actually made my favorite because I loved that backpack and I loved his gun too. But I didn't like his figure. I liked his
'cause
his accessories better.
Yeah. Dial Tone was the one with was it Dial Tone with the mustache? Shit. Anyways, yeah, Dial Tone and Mainframe were very similar characters. And
Mainframe was later, like newer, like he came out later, right?
no, they came out, I believe, the
They were
same
in the
time.
same way.
Because
Okay.
yeah, so
Dial
Dial
Tone looks
Tone
like a beret, like a French resistance fighter.
Yeah, Dial
from
Tone's a
World War
little
II.
yeah. Before anyone pulls off the side of the road, Dial Tone is the one with the big backpack, and he looks a little bit like Jack Flack from Cloak and Dagger with the beret.
That's the
and
one I
mustache.
had. Dial
Yeah.
Tone.
Mainframe is the guy who got more screen time on GI Joe, who was a little more hunkier. He had the love affair with Zorana.
Yes. But Dial Tone, I loved his backpack and I loved his gun. And I loved how the backpack had this like mouthpiece that you could actually move up and down. I thought that was really cool. Well, we did our G.I. Joe action figures, favorite and least favorite. Let's go through our Cobra favorite and least favorite. Cobra. La 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 la.
All right, so am I the first one to jump into this?
Same order. Yep, we'll do same order.
Okay, so really quickly, my my favorite and my least favorite actually come from they have a close connection. So my number one favorite Cobra figure is Zartan, and my least favorite Cobra figure is Dreadnought Thrasher. So really quickly, Zartan was the first figure that I ever had that A, could change colors, B, came with a mask of an alternate face you could wear, and C, was like the most kind of bizarre looking of the G.I. Joes when G.I. Joe came out. He came out in 84. I mean, the rest, Zartan is probably one of the most well-known characters in the history of G.I. Joes. I just loved that he was so unique. He was the most unique Cobra figure up until this point. Excluding Destro even. I just love Zartan. I love the fact. Heavens, the Murgatroyd. And then we get to Thrasher. So Thrasher came with the G.I. Joe, the Cobra vehicle, the Thunder Machine. So his weapon is a lacrosse stick, first of all. And
his weapon is the Thunder Machine.
His weapon.
So fuck you, Zach. He's one of my favorite characters.
Okay, so let me tell you why I don't like him. It's not the fact that he has a lacrosse stick as his weapon. I love his vehicle, by the way.
And by the way, Maryland and lacrosse is our sport of our state. Fuck you, Zach.
Lacrosse is a big sport.
Thrasher was a spoiled child who always got his way, and his parents were crippled in a car wreck, which may or may not have had anything to do with his repair work on their brakes. So he's a little bitch, and I didn't like that about him. That being said, the figure itself, he's not the worst looking. It's more like the backstory. He was just kind of like, you didn't earn your spot, you little sniveling shit. You're not a badass. You're just kind of a troublemaker with a badass Mad Max car. So that's why he's my least favorite.
Yeah, but did you know all that stuff about like that? All the backstory.
It's on his card.
The backstory is on his card that you buy.
It's on his card. It
says he's a spoiled child.
It says Thrasher was spoiled as a child by his middle-class parents who never disciplined him in fear that that this would stifle his energies that he might need later in life.
Why would he put that in his bio?
Well, because the bios were always weak when it came to the villains.
The person at Cobra head of HR is like, do you really want to put this on your bio card?
Thrasher, this is not the best look. It says you murdered your parents. I think that's what we're implying.
I think so too.
And it's like I think Thrasher thinks that that's a cool thing, but no, it's not really.
And then I know we're not talking about the cartoons, but in the cartoon he was the wimpiest of all of the Dreadnoks.
Yeah, I do know that. I'll go first on this one. Zartan's one of my favorites as well. I can still remember a friend of mine as a kid had him, and I was like, oh my god, he's so cool. So for me, the biggest toy gimmick I will always love is glow in the dark. But my second favorite toy gimmick is clear plastic, and my third favorite toy gimmick is color changing. Love color changing, so Zartan hit that. I take umbrage with you hating Thrasher. I loved him. He doubled as Road Warrior toys because we had no Road Warrior or Mad Max toys back in the day. By the way, guys and gals, catch a theme going on with Corey. I actually like to use my characters or like my G.I. Joe toys to like play out other scenarios. So he was the closest thing we had to a Wastelander.
What about Road Pig? Road Pig's even better.
I loved him too. He was also one of my my Wastelanders as well. But I mean, I will concede the vehicle is the cool part of Thrasher.
Yes, that's why you like him.
Yes, I get it. And
I didn't put down the vehicle. I gave it props.
Yeah, no, I know. I get it. But yeah, Zartan, always awesome. Fucking love Zartan. Diallo, what are your thoughts on these two?
Yeah, I mean, Zartan's awesome. He was, the color, the gimmick of the color changing was cool. I never had Zartan, but he was cool. This Thrasher, was he in that like second wave of Dreadnoks?
He was.
Yeah,
he was.
Which they, once again, and like
Yeah.
that's why, because I read
in the
like
movie.
the Dreadnoks, like that first wave, whatever. Like one of the guys looks like one of the dudes from King of the Hill, the blonde one. And then but then that second wave, I liked. Was it Zoran? Wait, what was the
Zorana and
they were
Xandar.
Yeah, they were twins, right? I liked Zorana, but
Yeah, you did.
but I mean, I don't know, man. He's fine. I know he existed, and like again, like that. Obviously there's a theme here where I'm very dismissive of everything post or like right around the G.I. Joe movie after. For me, G.I. Joe, the movie stopped being cool after the opening sequence. And then after that, I'm just kind of like, it's fine.
Yeah, he came out when the miniseries of Serpentor being made.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that tracks. Yeah, I mean, he's fine. I don't know. He's like looking at it, I mean, it's actually really ugly. Like
That's what
He has the V. What are the V's on his chest for?
Well, they're like, violence or something.
Vagina.
He looks a little bit like Corey Feldman, I think, to me too.
Corey Feldman.
He has a Corey Feldman look to him with his dippity-doo hair.
That is so specific.
Well, he has like rockabilly sort of hairstyle, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. He looks like he looks like the honky tonk man. That's what he looks like.
He does look like the honky tonk man with abs.
He does have crazy abs. The toy does have wild abs. Though.
But then in the show, he's so sniveling. But I know we're not talking about the show. But still.
I know. Dustin, what are your thoughts on these two?
Zoltan, I think it was just Zoltan, the great Zoltan machine. Is that what it is in Big?
Yes, it is.
Or is it, I thought it was Zoltar? Yeah.
Zoltar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the great Zoltar. Zartan, I feel like the gimmick of color change is, that's what it is. I think if you're going to say that he's the master of disguise, I was really kind of like, okay, so he changed his color, but how it, if he didn't have the extra face, and I didn't have him, but I just feel like the whole concept of a master of disguise, and even speaking to a greater thing with like G.I. Joes, where like I feel like the masters of stealth always are wearing the brightest colors. They stand out. You're like, you're supposed to be a ninja. You're supposed to be like, able to come in and out of any scenario. So I don't love him in the same way you guys do. I think that it's kind of like, okay, he turns blue. Like, we hadn't seen that before, so that was cool. Yeah. But as a G.I. Joe, like, what does that do for me? Okay, he's not gonna, I don't know. So, and certainly the whole Dreadnoks in general were very cool and badass. But it's like what you're saying, Corey. It's like, are we more connected to the gimmicks because we love the gimmicks? And this was a first, I think.
Yes.
Hey, Dustin, I'm picking up what you're putting down because, like I said, like I thought it was kind of cool. The Zartan was kind of cool just because like the color change aspect, but it never really connected with like I mean, like watching the cartoon. I know in the cartoon it was like he couldn't like it was like the bright light turned him blue or whatever. So it wasn't even like that was like a feature of his power, and his like master of disguise thing never really like vibed with his look. I don't know. It was really weird. Like he could have looked like anything. Why did he have to look like that? But like I said, like and also probably why I never really had him, because I could have, and I just never had Zartan because I probably didn't really resonate with me like some of the other figures did. So I'm picking up what you're putting down. I still think it's cool, but I definitely can
and as
see
a kid, I didn't know what was on his head. I was like, is that his hair?
Right.
Or is that a hood? And if it's a hood, it's not attached to anything.
It's Dusty. It's another Dusty.
It's another Dusty.
It's like that. He's simply Dusty.
It's like that figure from. It's like that character from Fat Albert that had the. People thought it was a shell, but it was really just like a hoodie. Like
Mushmouth.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's
Dumb
and
Donald.
I like
It's actually Dumb Donald, I think.
Dumb
Oh
Donald.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I thought it was just weird that so he comes with a backpack, and inside the backpack is where you put the mask of the extra face, and I always thought that was kind of creepy and cool at the same time, you know, and how you could slip the mask on his face and it's a cool accessory.
Could he take his chest armor piece
Yeah,
off? And
the
it was
chest
kinda
armor
clear?
came off too. Yeah, the chest
Yeah.
armor came off, and then he had stickers that color changing stickers that you could apply to his armor as well, and it just was like the most. Just different. It was such a weird. It was the first kind of Marvel supervillain character in the Cobra line. You know, up until this point they were all terrorists, and this guy was like a weird marauder. You know,
And he came with the sled too, right?
Yes.
Like he was like a deluxe toy in that regard.
Yeah, there were two versions of them. The one that came solo, and then this one, and the one that came with the green sled as well. Yeah.
Okay. Dustin, we didn't get your thoughts on Thrasher.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Thrasher, I'm not familiar. He's giving me like Liberace, Siegfried and Roy vibes.
That's tracks. Yeah.
You know, this half shirt I think is absurd. I don't understand that at all. Yeah. Don't like him.
Can't stand you. All right. Well, Diallo, what are your favorite and least favorite Cobra action figures?
So my favorite Cobra, one of my favorite Cobra action figures is the first Cobra Commander with the mirror face.
Oh yeah, classic.
Yeah, and then my least favorite, I never heard of this character, but I was looking at this list and I just was like, what? This is like, I didn't intend for this to be my rant on like why I hate like G.I. Joe from a certain point, but this typifies like why I hate G.I. Joe from a certain point. Hate's not the word, but this figure Raptor. I don't
the Cobra Falconer.
What? Just
WTF?
Just what? But yeah, Cobra Commander is just like the classic. I remember when it came out. It just looks cool. I don't know. It's like the blue with the silver, and it had like the little Cobra insignia on the chest. I used to like that, like the gun that he had was actually was pretty cool. I don't know why, and yeah, I longed for the hooded version though, because when I read the comic book, he was always wearing the hood, and so I was like, why don't they have that one? And eventually, I think I got it. I'm not sure, but this one was really cool. I actually think not sure. I might have sent away for this one. I don't know if it was out in the very, very, very first wave.
I think it was the second wave, but
yeah, I remember getting the little codes on the taking the little tags on the back and sending them in, and then getting a Cobra Commander figure. So that was the first one that I had. Yeah, and then this Raptor, man, I just it's just so, it's so ugly, it's so dumb, and just it's what happened. We've got to crank them out, guys. You start doing stuff, and And like I said, like it's why at a certain point I stopped liking X-Men. At a certain point, or I started liking G.I. Joe. You know, it's like they just that spark of creativity was gone, and it just it just feels a little cynical at a certain point. And we got to get crazier, like, you know, it's like we got to go like,
escalation, right?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and I think that's where it is. It's like it can't make sense because we have to go extreme. G.I. Joe extreme. So we have Raptor, who I don't even know. Like you're a Falconer. What is that? I've never seen. I've
What does it
seen.
even
Yeah,
mean?
I've seen Falconer. I've seen Falconers in real life, and none of them look like that. None of them.
Not a single
There
one.
is a Falconer that I saw once that was at like nearby at actually where I used to work. There used to be like a falcon, like he would like actually have a falcon that would fly around in this big business complex, and then catch it. And he looked nothing like that. He didn't have a hood and with that looked like a bird and a cape. Like what is this? What is this?
It's madness. It's mad. And Diallo, you have no idea how close he was. Almost my least favorite as well. We almost had overlap on that one, buddy. Everything you're saying is how I felt as a kid when I saw him. I was like, this is preposterous. I don't want a D grade superhero or supervillain in my G.I. Joe line. I thought he was stupid, absolutely stupid. Now, that Cobra Commander is my favorite Cobra Commander. I never had him as a kid. The only Cobra Commander I ever had was Battle Armor Cobra Commander, which Zach, I think, is Sunbow era, pretty much.
It's after he gets brought back
Yeah.
to life after he's a snake in G.I. Joe the movie.
And I can literally remember standing in the Toys R Us and getting that toy, like asking my parent for that toy. Like, at that age, you don't know anything's coming out. I just walked into a Toys R Us, and there's all these new G.I. Joe figures. And I was like, oh my God, that Cobra Commander's really cool looking. But I always wanted this version. This is my favorite version of Cobra Commander. I'm with you, Diallo. I think the gun was really cool. But for some reason, what I really liked as a kid is that his pants went under his shoes.
Yeah,
I didn't understand it, but I kind of loved it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah, I like that too. The way his like little like whatever they call him. Yeah, I love that about the design of this.
I was like, that's really cool looking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely adore that Cobra Commander, and fuck the Cobra Falconer. Dustin, what are your thoughts on these two?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Cobra Commander, you can't go wrong with him. Excellent choice. I don't have much to say because literally everyone in the world knows. If you know G.I. Joe, you know Cobra Commander, and specifically this one, the most iconic, I think, from our childhood. Raptor, I had, and one thing that we are not able to see is that his wings were so unimpressive when you put them on the character. They just they didn't open in a majestic falcony way. They just kind of hang. They were limp. They were limp little ends.
Oh, no.
And it was the most.
So Silverhawks, he was not.
Oh, it was the most unsatisfying thing to have because you're like, he doesn't even seem like he could fly if he wanted to. Which was kind of depressing. So he's not a great Joe.
Were his wings like the capes on some of those Star Wars figures, like Lando or Bespin Leia or something like that? Where
it was
just kinda
fabric.
It's just limp.
Oh, it was just
they were
fabric.
fabric?
It wasn't plastic. Okay.
Just like limp fabric. I'm sure we could easily find a photo of it, but
there were holes, they weren't clips that held the wings on. It was holes in the wings, and you put his hands through the holes.
He put his hands through the holes, and then they would just limply hang over his hand, and you'd be like, oh.
What is that? What is that?
It was a blanket.
Yeah.
It was a blanket.
It is.
That's really what it was.
Going to a concert and wrapping yourself up in a limp falcon wing.
God.
Oh, God, that's sad. That's so sad. I'm sorry that you had that, Dustin. I'm so sorry. It's almost as bad as having Sneak Peek or something, which who didn't make any of our lists, but man, he was close to making my list.
You can add me to that condolences list because I had Raptor as well, and I think he was super lame. There was no backstory. He wasn't in the cartoon. I wasn't reading the comics at this point, so I don't know if he actually even got brought up into the comics. It's a weak excuse of trying to make a character out of nothing, just there was no basis for it, This is at the point too, like they had Crocmaster already. They had Naugahyde. They were trying to do all these animal villains with animals, and
I loved my Crocmaster toy.
So
much.
I'm saying like Crocmaster was cool. Naugahyde was all right. Crocmaster was great. Like they had already done that, but I guess they needed another wing guy to compete with Spirit, who had come out 3 years prior or 4 years prior.
Yeah, I always thought that he was like a counterpoint to Spirit, maybe because they both have the birds.
Well, they both kind of he kind of had an indigenous look to him as well. I don't know if he's from like South America or if he's supposed to be from, the Southwest, who knows? But one thing that I think is worth mentioning for Cobra Commander that was cool was his blaster attached to his back, and there was an indent on his back, and that was really cool as well. I always thought that was neat. It didn't always hold very well, but I just thought it was a cool little gimmick. And yeah, I mean the bird that Raptor came with is cool, but his Coachella blankie and his he would fit in really well at Coachella actually.
Burning Man. He looks like a burner.
Yeah, Burning Man / Coachella. And yeah, I mean whatever. Never Condor Man flopped from Disney, so why would they think Raptor would be a success? But apparently there's a new version of Raptor coming out from the new toy line.
The new Classified series?
That's a rumor. Yeah, I saw a head sculpt online, so would not be surprised if they bring back this lame character for some reason.
All right, sure. Why not? Dustin, what are yours, buddy?
Yes. All right. Top Cobra villains. My favorite, one of my favorite figures ever was the bats, the battle android troopers, the robots, the indiscriminate will mow down anything on the field. Just really loved that character. And then my least favorite is Big Boa, the Cobra boxing trainer.
I love Big Boa. No.
Do not like Big Boa at all. So on the bat side, the picture's coming up. On the bat side, right? I love the color scheme. The figures come with a black backpack. What do we got? A silver hand, a silver gripper arm, a silver laser attachment, a silver torch attachment. A lot of room to imaginate, and then this amazing, chest that was kind of a I don't even know what you call that texture, where you can kind of see the inside, but it had a great feel to it.
Yeah, like a hologram kind of, not a hologram, but
kind of. I'm
like
sure
lenticular or something.
Lenticular. Not to be confused with glenticular
or testicular. No, really, really great. And then Big Boa, I just didn't understand how we're kind of incorporate the boxing guy into the boxing guy with, he's got the Mad Max sort of spiky, I could easily see him being in Thunderdome, Corey. So I don't.
I mean, he was for me.
Yes, I'm sure he was. With the mask and the gas thing and the piping and all this stuff. But I just think similar to maybe like Captain Gridiron, where it's like you have these kind of weird concepts, like why are we throwing boxing gloves onto this guy? For arguably no reason. So that's it. I welcome your thoughts.
Well, I'm going to start off by saying that the Bat almost made my number one as well. I love that toy. I think that head sculpt is fantastic. Obviously, it's kind of Boba Fett-ish a little bit. But as a kid, I loved characters that had one robotic hand of something that you could take on and off or whatever. And the fact that, like, you could put multiple attachments onto his hand was amazing. I think I had like 3 bats, not at once. I think they, would get broken. I'd get another one. The bat was a staple. I absolutely love the bat. Like I said, it almost made my number 1 slot as well. Big Boa was in my top 5, like, of the ones I was looking at, because I played with it like crazy as a kid. Like what you're saying, Dustin, I don't disagree with you. I understand, like, it's like, what is this? And, like, why would he be on the battlefield? Now, you kind of find out that he's more of a Cobra trainer, like, so you kind of wouldn't expect him to be on the battlefield. But at the same time, it is kind of a silly concept. But, like, as a kid, once I took the gloves off, I was like, oh, well, he just fits in the Mad Max world. And I already have multiple characters that can work that way. And I have, Thrasher's car, the Dreadnought vehicle. So I was like, this is perfect.
There you go.
He can fit perfectly into that world. But I never played with him as I am the Cobra boxing trainer guy. Like, I never did that. Right. But the Bat's classic. I fucking love the Bat. I think it's amazing. And it's a great toy. Like, the toyification stuff that it has going on is fan-fucking-tastic. Absolutely amazing. So, Zach, what are your thoughts on these?
Yeah, I love the bats. One of the cool things about that toy line, or like the Cobra Troopers or the Crimson Guard, you could buy multiples of them and have like an army or a wave. I didn't do that. I wish I could. I did have some friends that did that.
The cool thing about them was you could do this. I didn't do that, but
I mean, because it was so expensive. It was
an expensive proposition. Yeah.
Yeah, because you go to the toy store and your parents are like, well, you could pick out 1 or 2 figures, and you're like, okay, well, I want 5 of this one.
Your mom offered you 3. You could have gotten 3 bats.
It's kind of like stormtroopers, like for Star Wars. Like, some people had like multiple. For some reason, I had multiple hammerheads.
Bats were not available. I don't think they were hard to come by. I don't think I actually owned a bat. I wanted a bat because I loved the fact that you could take their arms off and interchange with parts. They were so cool. Yeah, I never had the bats. I'm realizing now. What a bummer that was, because they were super cool. So I was super envious of anybody that did have. I did have a friend that had several of them, and I'm like, oh, that's so awesome how you have like a wave. Big Boa, I thought he was cool. I liked the fact that you could take his gloves off, but then I was like, what's the point? Because you're not going into battle like that. It's worth noting that in 1987, G.I. Joe magazine, which would do like one-off storylines, has a cover with Falcon fighting, no joke, he is fighting a Big Boa and Raptor. And so at the same time, and in a vehicle. So I think that's interesting.
They're fighting each other?
Falcon and Big Boa are battling Falcon, Lieutenant Falcon, which is Duke's little brother. Anyways, like the classified figure of Big Boa that's coming out looks really radical. The Bat character, like, it's funny because it came out during the Sergeant Slaughter era of the miniseries with Serpentor, and it was supposed to be like the dominant force. And for like 2 episodes it was, and then suddenly it was gone, which is a bummer because it was a really cool character. And they were robots, and who doesn't like a robot?
That's and you could also shoot him and kill him too. So that was always fun.
Yeah, blow him up.
Diallo, what are your thoughts on these two?
The Bat was cool. I think when we covered that comic, that
Saturday morning cartoons comic that IDW put out. Yep, the Bat was in it.
Yeah, they were all of it. So they were. I thought they were cool. Like a good. It made more sense to have something for the G.I. Joes to shoot at and destroy, because they were always fighting against the Cobra Troopers before, right? You can never like destroy them, but with the robots you could destroy them. And Boa, once again, I think that's in that realm for me. But I was actually kind of, when you guys were talking, I was looking at some of the classics figure, and it actually looks pretty badass in the G.I. Joe Classic series figure of Big Boa.
The new one, the classified.
Yeah, the new one.
coming
Yeah,
out?
he looks
Yeah.
kind of badass in that picture.
Yeah.
So I can't lie. But he looks more like a Mortal Kombat figure than he does,
I can see that.
Yeah, than he does like a GI Joe. But the actual old school one, I mean, he's fine. I don't. Again, I'm very obviously just very dismissive of a lot. It just seems like everything they were just throwing stuff out, and nothing really felt, I don't know, authentic to me, I guess.
I don't think you're wrong. And I'm the youngest out of you, all four of us here. So, of course, the latter ones are going to be the ones that I was going to remember more. But I mean, Diallo, I don't think those gripes are wrong. I think you're right. I mean, obviously, he's the Cobra boxing trainer. He's not coming out in wave one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one's thinking of that back then.
Yeah.
It takes years to get to that point of dredging the well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, half of these I don't even, I remember, again, it was up until, I mean, I was playing with them up until about, 84 would have been the latest really, and then I aged out, and so I was too, I would have gotten beaten up if I got caught playing with them after that point. My brother was much younger than me, and he got a lot of these figures, so I still was able to if I play with them or whatever, or see them. He had I think he might have had one of the bats. He had that that Blackbird Cobra jet, and he had a bunch of those toys.
I had that.
Yeah, so I kind of saw through him, but I just, without me even critically, I wasn't watching things critically, being I don't like this. It was just sort of it wasn't resonating, and I just started finding myself going away. Especially right around the time that the post GI Joe the movie stuff was coming out. I just stopped watching it, but and then when I'm looking back, I'm yeah, that's why. A lot of the characters just sort of, I don't know, they were just throwing stuff out, and it didn't really. But again, this classified series, Big Boa, that's a cool. I actually might buy it. Actually,
I was gonna say I might have already pre-ordered.
Yeah, I actually might buy that. I like because I like the little Cobra on his boxing gloves. He looks bad. He looks badass here. And maybe that maybe that's just the sculpting and stuff is a lot better than it used to be back in the day. So maybe that's
it's funny, I'm gonna sound like an old man. Bats were cool and all, but back in my day, I had the that battle armor that Cobras would go into. Zach, what was that called?
Yeah,
the hiss tank. I mean, no, not I know the white big
Yeah. And you would have to have a
miniseries.
figure in there for it to actually stay together, otherwise it would kind of fall apart. I loved that thing as a kid.
Yeah.
But that's a vehicle. I considered that a vehicle, so that's not an actual action figure.
Was it a
No.
Venom suit? Was it?
Yeah, I believe so. It was something like that.
It was on the GI Joe video game.
It was called
I remember.
Snake, Snake.
Yeah.
Battle
Didn't
armor
Super 7,
Snake.
Zach, didn't Super 7 put out some kind of toy, robot toy or something?
They did. But I will say the armor was kind of lame because it fell apart really easily when you put the figure inside it, because it clipped around the figure. And then suddenly you move the figure and you're like, oh, it's just falling apart. So
it was all loosey-goosey, but
Yeah.
it looked so cool, though. I like
But
the way it looked.
in the cartoon, it was an actual robot. It wasn't the
Yes.
actual figure inside. So
Yes.
yeah.
That was one of the ones that my brother had too. I remember kind of playing with that guy. Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, the bats are cool. I think they were a little more inspired. And I remember just my feeling. I remember when they were in that last wave of figures that were remotely interesting to me, but they were also in that wave where they were I think they were kind of spitting some, because I think that's the same wave where they changed Roblox maybe. I don't know if it was the same
to
one.
the newer outfit where he kind of has that patch, that orange patch on his chest.
Yeah.
He's got a white shirt.
Yeah,
on.
white shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just was like, why? And I think that there was some other stuff that they did at that point. I don't know, just kind of.
And he pushed a button on his back and he rhymed. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
I wish he had done that for the movie. It would have made sense.
Right.
But anyway.
All right. Well, I'll bring us home with my two. All right. So my favorite is another one that's older from '89. I am talking about the Cobra Urban Assault Trooper, the Alley Viper. Loved that as a kid. And my least favorite debuted in 1987, Cobra's fucking hypnotist, Crystal Ball. What a piece of shit. When I saw him as a kid, and like his one accessory is like this stupid shield that had some kind of, again, like a lenticular type of thing where you moved it makes motions, and he looks dumb. I mean, like, when I was a kid, not gonna lie to you all, I fucking hated Dr. Mindbender. Thought that dude was dumb as fuck. And then this guy comes out, and I'm like, well, this guy takes the cake. I hated Crystal Ball. Hated him. But Alley Viper, by the way, Cobra G.I. Joe Declassified. He was the first declassified figure that I bought, was the Alley Viper one, because I was like, oh my god, I love this toy as a kid. I loved how colorful he was, because he's 19. What did I say? He was the Alley Viper's 1989, so he's at that peak of 80s colors. That those Intertech 80s colors is the Alley Viper. I love that he had a shield. I loved his gun that he came with, and he came with this like face mask kind of armor thing. Thought he was fucking badass, dude. I played with my Alley Viper so much. I love that toy. Crystal Ball can go fuck himself. Zach, what are your thoughts on these two?
Well, Alley Viper came out during the Sunbow era, the third season of G.I. Joe, and I mean, there were so many bad characters during that time. Just like the Ninja Force came out at that time too.
I hated them.
It was just over the top. So at this point now, we've just let ourselves go as far as being covert or like hidden. I love the Alley Viper's look. He's no Alley Viper. Like, if you're hiding somewhere, you're not hiding in that outfit. You're not hiding unless you're in Jumbo's Clown Room alley, or something. I don't know. I have no idea. But I love his look. It's really unique and cool looking. He's creepy looking, not to be confused with Night Creeper Leader, which is another character that sucked. No, I can see why you like him. He's very much a Corey figure. Like, he's Mortal Kombat meets Mad Max. Yeah, I love it. And Crystal Ball, your original one, Dr. Mindbender, I was going to defend Mindbender and just say that, simply he's the guy who helps resurrect Serpentor.
Again, it's the character is different than the toy.
But
I also hate Dr. Mindbender, the character, too. So
yeah, it's kind of like this weird Dr. Frankenstein looking dude with 6-pack abs and an old man face. This is like, I don't know. He looks like a guy who should be on Password, like a game show in the 70s, and like a washed up actor.
Vincent Price, actually.
Yeah, he like his career as a hypnotist at the Magic Castle didn't go very well, and now he's joined Cobra's forces. I like the shield. I always tripped off of like lenticular or hologram type stuff, accessories. But he's a very Joe Schmo looking character. He's supposed to be exotic, I guess. He's lame. I can see why. It's part of that era of just like whap whap whap. They're just throwing darts at the wall. Larry Hama's not creating characters anymore. They put him on the back burner, and they're like, bring in this kid. What do you think, Ike? I want to see hypnotist. Okay, we're gonna do a hypnotist. What else? I want to see mustache. Okay, we'll put a mustache on him too. Okay, we're good. Done. Yep, he sucks. I can see why.
I think you would like the mustache, Zach, because you love like mustache father figures with gray hair and
Yeah,
so,
but he's a villain. He's a villain though.
As far as you know,
he could be undercover.
He could be a great guy.
He could be Chuckle's dad.
He's too like, no, I don't know. He's not doing it for me.
Dustin, keep your thoughts going, buddy. What do you think of these two characters?
Well, Alley Viper looks totally rad. I have never heard of this character. I've never seen this character. I love the outfit. I love the shield. another like looks like your neighbor that's taking paintball way too seriously again.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. Here we go. Really, really cool. If I had known about this character, this is definitely a character I would have played with a lot because it's I love the colors. I really I like everything about it. Crystal Ball I did have.
Oh my!
I did not like him, but I'll tell you, it was really fun to make him be the villain, and he was the guy that everyone pounded on, just like beat the shit out.
Sure,
of. And I'll tell you, like the thing with him is like he looks like he just looks old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like every G.I. Joe guy, has a certain like age and quality, and and Cobra. Like this is like I am an old creeper. Like he's an old creeper. He's the guy who you would see on the fucking like watch out for this guy. He's gonna kidnap you posters that were
totally
everywhere.
He drives a van. He drives a van.
Watch out! Don't leave the bus stop alone. Like
Right.
the crystal ball guy is coming for you. He's gonna hypnotize you and get you in the van. So, but. That's great because, like, if you love to hate, a character, and I could have William the Refrigerator Perry just, take his football mallet and, pound that guy. It's very satisfying.
Shit out of him.
So he's got like a Craven from Spider-Man kind of a thing too, like a little
Yes. Yep.
little that
He
going
does.
No, but actually, Dustin, you bring up a good point. Like, it is nice to actually have a character in your toy collection that you give no fucks about, so that you can just destroy him with all the other characters. I think there's actually something nice about that, or something necessary about a character like that.
Right.
for sure.
Diallo, I know what you're gonna say about Alley Viper, because that is definitely Sunbow era. But what are your thoughts, buddy?
Actually, it's funny because like this character, like so, if you had to put him in your least favorite, I would be like, maybe, like, but there's something about that character that feels like what Cobra would be. Now, the whole urban assault part doesn't fit, right? Like, because I don't know what urban, I don't know what city, is running around with like bright orange, but this that actually looks like a figure that would come out in like the second wave of like Cobra. Like with just you would need like a little bit more of a I don't know, a job,
tone it down just a little bit.
Well, like a job description more. Like,
right, okay.
You know what I mean? Like if it was like he was the, I don't know, tech supervisor. I don't know what it is. But I do like so the figure itself is pretty cool, but the picture on the box I actually like better because I like the blue. Like there's a lot more blue in it, and I think that kind of like tones it down quite a bit. But the shield's pretty cool. I don't know why it's shaped like that, what the shield does, but I think that's cool. So Alley Viper's
doubles as
actually
a
right.
spike to the chest. It doubles as a spike to the chest. You can turn it like jam it into someone's chest.
Yeah.
A lot of chests.
And then, it's funny because, when I was looking at the pictures, I have to say, I don't think I ever heard of Alley Viper. But then when I was looking at the pictures of the figures and I was going to, the later ones, I actually saw Crystal Ball, and I thought it was Dr. Mindbender at first, just from a quick glance, and then I realized it was a different one. I never heard of Crystal Ball, and, Dr. Mindbender was going to be one of the characters I didn't like either. So
yeah, buddy.
Yeah. So I just it's not. I don't know. It's funny because urban, at least the urban assault trooper title I get. I don't get the costume doesn't vibe with the idea of being an urban assault position. But it's hilarious that it's oh yeah, he's our hypnotist, Cobra, the hypnotist. Everybody's got a hypnotist, and he's our hypnotist. That's That's what's
He's
hilarious.
ours. We got him.
Yeah. It's like everybody. You go to a place, you have like your middle manager, you have your CEO, and then you have your HR, and then you have your hypnotist. And like that's hilarious. Like Cobra hypnotist. Like it's like a job title that everybody has one, and that's theirs.
The Cobra acupuncturist figure was dope.
Yeah,
it was so rad.
exactly.
Pinhead, his name was Pinhead, but that there was some legal things going on with Hellraiser, so they discontinued the figure.
The Cobra masseuse. Yeah, so it's like, it looks ugly. Kind of looks like it would be actually like a character from Buck Rogers.
Oh yeah,
like it looks like a I don't know, like cross between Tiger Man and some other character. But yeah, like the
Tiger Man was rad.
The picture on the box looks like Vincent Price actually.
Yeah, it does.
And that I mean at least the Vincent Price part's cool. But yeah, I don't even get like. I don't know, the little hypnotist shield, whatever. Was he on the cartoon?
Like, what are you supposed to do in battle? Like, you have to be like, somebody's about to shoot you, and you're like, no, wait, look into my shield. Like, how does this even work?
Yeah, it's a. But yeah, like I said, like like I was saying, like at this point, they were just like, I don't know, they were just doing stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
And but yeah,
get the G.I. Joe decoder
cool.
ring.
Alley Viper is kind of cool. One thing I'm noticing too, it's like at this era, like I don't know, no offense to you guys that were a little younger when you were getting these figures, but I laughed because I noticed how they have to put Cobra Enemy on the box, because you were like too dumb to like, you know what I mean? It's like I get it, like whatever. It's just funny.
They didn't put G.I. Joe Hero on there.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Maybe it was for the parents so that the parents knew. I don't know what it is.
Right.
It's just funny
doing
that,
the shopping and buying the wrong thing. Yeah.
But it's just funny that it's like on there because they put it there because like it was like answering a question somebody had about like, oh, well,
is this guy good or bad?
Yeah. Maybe because this was in the same era that Tipper Gore was trying to ban video games or something, so maybe like
the parental advisory stickers.
Two Live Crew was like so maybe that's why they put it on there.
I do ultimately appreciate all of our differing opinions, and like you can kind of paint a psychological picture with some of us, probably talking about myself, as to why we chose the certain guys we chose, or Corey, like you, obviously it caters to your interests as well. I just think it's awesome that none of us overlapped, which was surprising too.
Yeah.
No, and we didn't prep it or anything. Like we didn't, plan this, and we almost did on a couple of them, but I'm glad we didn't. I think this was awesome. Lee, I hope you enjoyed this one. I mean, this is now our longest episode of 80s Kids Unite, a show that was originally intended to be maybe 30 minutes.
It didn't even feel that. It didn't even feel like it was that.
I know, because it's fun. We're talking about G.I. Joe.
I'm looking at the time. I'm like, whoa.
Four of us love.
I didn't realize
and that's the thing is, like, when I sort of threw this topic out to the group, I fully expected all of us to have played with G.I. Joes. This wasn't going to be a scenario where some of us didn't see Live Aid or something like that. I was like, no, there's no doubt in my mind that every single one of us here has some sort of love for G.I. Joes. So this was awesome. And I definitely want to do another one for vehicles, and I definitely want to do another one for characters. Because like I said, there are characters that I loved and hated that don't translate to how I felt about the actual action figures. So
that comes down to all you patrons out there. If you want us to do a topic that you're like jonesing for, do this show, do a topic on mask toys. Even if it's something we're not familiar with, we'll cover it. And like we did with Live Aid, some of us knew stuff about it. Some of us had no recollection whatsoever. Some of us were at Target buying Mary's crackers. So, like you literally can suggest any topic and we'll do it justice. And Lee, you got your money's worth because, like you said, Corey, it's our longest episode. It won't be our first or our last. Well, it was our first, but it won't be our last.
That's right. And, like I said earlier, no matter what feed you're listening to this on, make sure you go check out all the other podcasts that all four of us are creating. $2 late fee, Territory Marks, Galactica Actually, Podcasting After Dark, TV Obscura. What am I forgetting, guys? Anything? All right, very good.
Smartless. Yeah.
How dare you? What is my wife listening right now? Because she listens to Smartless.
I'm trying to fool her.
Another review
Yes.
you didn't ask for. Did you say that one?
There you go. Another review you didn't ask for. The first Noel Chronicles as well. So, yeah, guys and gals, thank you all so much for being Patreon members to both of our shows, either or. And like Zach said, you can submit any topic you want to, and if you've already submit again. We keep an ongoing list, and we kind of highlight what we've already done, but we'll just keep adding them to the list. So we hope that this show keeps going, and also we hope that it becomes a live show one day when we're out at LA Comic-Con this year, which is actually in October. So we're gonna have to talk off air about what we're doing about that this year.
Right.
But thank you all so much. And how do we end 80s Kids Unite?
We say, the only caveat is that the topic you suggest has to be the show Werewolf.
Yes. Oh, you know what I might add too? Whatever you do in life, just make sure you don't blow out your O-ring.
Okay.
Because the O-ring was the thing that connected
too soon. Zach.
I think I've already blown out my O-ring this week.
I was waiting for someone to say something.
Oh wait,
like
can we
that.
just say one thing that just as far as action G.I. Joe names, that there's a character named Backblast. Like an actual character was named Backblast.
Yeah. it's
I don't
amazing.
remember that character at all.
Yikes.
That's amazing.
Yikes. All right. Well, on that note, guys
That's
and
a perfect
gals,
note.
we will see you next month with another episode of 80s Kids Unite.
Yo, Joe.
Cobra. La 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 la.
80s Kids Unite is brought to you by Hungry Hungry Hippos, the loudest tabletop game in history. And by Nickelback, Zach's favorite band. If you'd like to suggest topics for this show, go to the Patreon of either $2 late fee or Podcasting After Dark, or both. All links are in the show notes. We love you.